Hey everybody, Retrofied here. Today's day 24 of this month-long marathon leading up to the Switch 2's launch. And for today's video, I wanted to talk about not necessarily the Switch 2, but something just Nintendo related that kind of has to do with the Switch 2. So the topic of today's video is about Nintendo's abandoned games. And will they keep doing this in the Switch 2 era? So if you're excited about the Switch 2, make sure you leave a comment telling me what you're excited about. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of these videos. We're almost a week away from the Switch 2 and I'm so excited. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Ever since about 2017, a lot of game companies have been adapting a live service form. And this is different for every game. A lot of games take it as the game is constantly updating, like GTA Online or Fortnite, where the game's constantly updating because it is an online game. Other games take this as coming out with a barely playable game with no content and slowly updating it throughout time. And the big company that's been doing this so much is Nintendo. We saw this especially with Animal Crossing New Horizons, where the launch game was so bare bones that it was almost nothing like any of the older Animal Crossing games. And then slowly throughout time, we kept getting free updates that added some more content here and there, but then all of a sudden, nothing. And now we're seeing this again with Switch Sports, Splatoon 3, and just a bunch of games that Nintendo came out with as unfinished games, and then started adding stuff over time, and then just stopped. Switch Sports is still a good game. There's still a good community of people who play that game. I'm one of those people. I really enjoy Switch Sports. But after they came out with an update about a year and a half after the game came out, there was just radio silence. No more updates, no more new sports. The game was so lackluster in terms of the amount of sports compared to Wii Sports Resort, or even compared to the original Wii Sports. A lot of the games that were in Switch Sports were basically just clones of each other, like badminton was just tennis. So for the fact of them to just kind of drop the game for no reason doesn't make any sense. So taking a step back to Animal Crossing New Horizons was such a well-renowned game just because of the fact that it released, right at the start of the pandemic. Everybody was stuck in their homes, and this game where you were on an island and got to build your own home was perfect. It's not like Nintendo made the pandemic so this game would sell well, but because of the pandemic, this game did so well. But then you're playing it and you have this nostalgia of that time, but then you remember that this game was so bare bones. And now if you bought this game 2 years after it came out and played it for the first time, you'd think that the game was really good. But if you were like me and got the game launch day or a little bit after launch day, then you remember that there was like no content in this game. And Nintendo used to not ever do this. They used to just come out with a game, it'd be a fully complete game, and then just that'd be it. They wouldn't add any updates, they wouldn't add anything to the game because the game was perfect as it is. They weren't releasing these games that had barely any content in them and then added it later on in time and then just kind of stopped, even though it still isn't that full complete game. Now, are we going to see this with the Switch 2? The first game that comes to mind is Mario Kart World. We've seen a lot of the stuff in single player and it kind of looks lackluster. So are they going to keep adding updates to single player or new maps and stuff and just keep pushing these updates out? Because I understand that it is good to get more people to stay playing the game when you come out with updates for it. It's also good for people to get the game because they'll see some cool new update and think, oh, well, that's cool, let me get the game. But I don't want this to happen with Mario Kart World. I know it's impossible for Nintendo to update a game forever. They can't keep updating Animal Crossing New Horizons literally forever. But what I mean is that they just update the game to about 80%, right? They launch the game where it's 50% completed with like 50% of the content and then add updates until it's at like 80% and then just stop. I don't want this with any more games. I want them to launch these games completed, and maybe later on we get DLC later down the road that adds, a huge new map to the game instead of slowly drip feeding content throughout like a year or two, because then after that year or two, no more content. Mario Kart World's gone. Just put it under the rug. And I am honestly worried about Mario Kart World just because of the fact that it's an online game. Yes, Mario Kart World, or Mario Kart in general, is more of a sit down, play with your friends and family, but it has a big online mode, and the 24-player online is going to be huge. So since this is an online game, I believe that Nintendo might do this kind of live service format where they just keep adding more and more and more content throughout time, but by the end it's not that much new content. Another game too that comes to mind is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza looks like it is a complete game, so I doubt that they would actually do this drip feed content. And that's what I mean with this, is that Some games do look like they're full completed story game like Donkey Kong Bonanza, but then some games like Mario Kart World that are more online based don't look that completed. So I honestly really hope that Nintendo doesn't go for this bad launch game style anymore. I'd love to see some Switch 2 editions of these old games and they be like a definitive edition. Like Animal Crossing New Horizons, they could add some new big update that would actually make it feel like a complete game. Same with Switch Sports, they could add a Switch 2 edition called Switch 2 Sports, and it could have like 2 or 3 more sports on it. I feel like that would be awesome because it would add more content to the game that game desperately needed. So wrapping up, I really hope Nintendo changes their ways with their games in the future. I hope we don't get any more, just half-baked games anymore. Like, I really hope we do get fully completed games on launch that can have DLC that expand the already completed game rather than DLC that finishes the game. So make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and tell me what game you hope comes out on the Switch 2 that isn't a half-baked game. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.